All right, we are back today, you all, with the regular live stream. For those who are going to catch it on the replay. All right, let's let those notifications go out. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and check a few things here like we normally do. Yeah, welcome. Wow, it has been, it has been quite the week. I cannot deny it. It's been quite the week. Not just with God revelation, but with more observing of things that we didn't really pay much attention to before God awakened us, things, behaviors, and then recognizing that, oh my gosh, I know I went there. I thought to myself, leaving the store the other day, watching all the people running around living in fear, and even though chosen ones, we never lived 100% in fear. We did, however, kind of have a little conformity with things we didn't yet know were manufactured or engineered or made up. You know what I'm saying? We did not know that the world was a stage yet. We didn't know that it's a make-believe world. We did not know that really you can do anything you put your mind to, and that there's plenty of room on the world stage to get into your purpose. We did not know just how, oh my gosh, yeah, we didn't realize any of that yet until God awakened us, and then he's showing us. And I said, oh my goodness, I was one part of that. I was once part of that crowd running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Yeah, and I was like, man, how many times I got duped into doing things I didn't need to do because, well, it was never as bad as they claimed it was gonna be. And I just, so many things go through my mind, and it's all part of the renewing of the mind, right? It's the renewing of the mind. It's unlearning old ways of thinking. It is you're being transformed into the best version that God created us to be. And in order to do that, we have to remember that we have to recognize things within ourselves. We have to remember that we were part of that at one time too, because God is very clear, right, in Ephesians, that we sometimes walked in darkness. Sure, of course, until we knew better. So let me go ahead and do our usual sound check. And I know that it might be a little dicey, being up here today with all the other stuff. Sound check, and I know with all the other stuff going on, and I get it. All the other things that are going on out there in the crazy making world. Absolutely. Okay, and so we've got that out of the way. Just know that we're not, we don't allow ourselves to get caught up into any of that anymore. All right, you all the crazy making out there, but we have to recognize that we too sometimes walk in darkness, right? And I'm going to get that passage because it's all part of the renewing of the mind. It's all part of it. There is no getting away from it, because it said we did we did walk in darkness sometime. Okay, and I want to say it's in, let me do a quick quicker search for you real quick. I don't remember the exact verse, and that reminds me, whenever I do that, I'm going to make a note to put it on my Bible board that I have on the wall there. And that way, I don't go through this all the time, because I know we've read it. We were sometime in darkness, but now we're not, because God awakened us to all of that. We're going through. Yes, okay, there you go. For ye were sometime darkness, but now ye are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. That is Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8. Okay, and then, because right before that, we're told to not be partakers with the evildoers. But we didn't know that yet. We didn't know that until God awakened us, right? And so as I was watching all of the people living in fear, and watching them fill up their buggies with things that, well, hopefully eventually they'll get to using them, but I felt for them in a small way. You know, Jude 1:22 says, for some have compassion, but I said, well, you know, it's one of them things where we just kind of, we know, part of the renewing of the mind is recognizing that we too were once there. See, I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA Let's Just Chat show, streaming on the YouTube channel, Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating for healthier living. And I want to go ahead and just remind everybody, the renewing of the mind is a whole nother process in and of itself. It's not something that is going to happen overnight. This is a journey. This is something that we're going to recognize within ourselves. And so, as part of those childish things, 1 Corinthians 13:11, we're going to recognize, 1 Corinthians 13:11, putting away childish things. We're going to realize that we also develop some narcissistic tendencies ourselves because of social influence and the fact that we did not know yet. Because, again, in Ephesians 5, verse 8, for ye were sometime darkness, but we did not know yet. Okay, but now we are light in the Lord, because it's no longer us who walks, but Christ who walks through us, a chosen one. So we realize, okay, we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of that inner work, and things for us to recognize, not just in general all around us, but within ourselves too, that, hey, you know what, we were once on that side of the fence too. Because I remember thinking this when I was an undergrad. I said, what is it with some of these instructors? It's like they're grading our papers as though they're looking for perfection, which we know that's what they were doing. But I said, my goodness, did they forget that before they got their doctorate, that they were on this side once before? I mean, I always wondered. And I think the answer for some, not all of them, but for some, I think the answer is yes. They did forget. A lot of them do, because they let position go to their head. So like they become an instructor at a college for many, not all, glory be to God, but for many, it does go to their head. And so they think that, right, so they're looking through that doctorate lens, and so they have an undergraduate student who's getting their bachelor, and they're not remembering the different levels. They're not remembering that. So they are going to grade and treat that bachelor level student as though they're on a doctorate level. And many of us went through that with a few of our instructors in undergrad, and we were like, okay. And I mean, but you know, I'm not complaining, because I will tell you this, them doing that definitely prepared me for the current journey I'm on. So with the doctorate journey. And I said, okay, so I mean, we were prepared, and we're continuing to revise and get that thing going. But I'll tell y'all that we have got to always remember that we were on the other side too. That's part of the renewing of the mind. And also staying humble, because we don't want to forget that, okay, we were once there too. So we're not, because we're not judging or anything like that. It's just we're noticing, oh my gosh, that is how we used to look. As far as not based on appearances, but how we used to behave before we knew better. So it's like, oh my goodness, wow. And it really is a very big difference when yeah, whenever we, oh gosh, wow, and we do that kind of renewing of the mind. And so I wanted to go ahead and give you all this real quick before we get too much more into it. I have some notes here as far as the narcissistic mindset that God revealed to me. I said, oh, we got to get rid of that because it's part of the breaking bad habits, which is also part of the renewing of the mind and the transformation process. You have to remember that breaking bad habits pleases God. So it's part of the transformation process, and it's part of repentance as well. See, yeah, the devil don't like that, but again, too bad because God is in full control. So he revealed it to me, but I want to go ahead and step in and give you all, I stand corrected. Yes, as I was going through the self-reflecting, breaking a bad habit, it's funny because I said, how is it that I developed that kind of mindset in the first place? Because I got to thinking about how it all ties in, okay? So bear with me. I got to thinking about how it is that we can have that kind of mindset, it close enough to the time, and not be thinking about anyone else, right? We're not thinking about the type of services that we are offering, or if we are in the business for, let's say, like I thought that the last toxic workplace that I worked at, I thought that was my first and last 9 to 5. Now, mind you, it was the first and last what I would consider official 9 to 5, okay? Because there was a very short season when I lived in Miami, Florida years ago, chasing that modeling dream. Oh boy. Yeah, okay. Years ago when I was chasing that modeling dream, where I was employed as a office manager selling outdoor storage unit. And I don't recall if it was 8 to 4, 9 to 5, or 10 to 6. I don't remember the exact hours of operation, but I know it was very similar to a 9 to 5. Or so I do stand corrected that the last one might be more the official one, but it wasn't my first 9 to 5 type job. I was an office manager, and that was located in Homestead at the time, where I sold outdoor storage unit called sheds, the storage sheds that people get. And it was very short though. I don't even think I was there a few months. Yeah, that's, I believe, why I didn't recall it when I was thinking about, 9 to 5 jobs and stuff. And I had forgotten all about that one being considered like a 9 to 5er. So I stand corrected, and I thank the Holy Spirit for reminding me of that. I had forgotten that was kind of, yeah, so it wasn't really the last one was not technically the very first, okay, 9 to 5er, although the most official one, because I was there for about a year and a half, a little over, okay, because that first one was it was very brief. Anyhow, so that leads to how I discovered that this is part of the narcissistic mindset that helped to develop the bad habit that we're breaking. And I said, okay, hold on a second. Where did that come from? Because here's what I was doing. I told myself this morning that I was not going to turn the big light on until a specific time. Like getting up early and then not going to turn the big light on. I have a reason, okay? It's like we're not going to let the devil know our every move, right? We got to learn to be less predictable. So the less light that I have on, the less he'll know when I'm actually up. So, yeah, okay? I'm just going to leave it there. It's just learning to be less predictable. Not walking on eggshells, but I told myself that I wasn't going to turn it on until a specific time this morning. Well, it got to be about, I say, 13 minutes before that actual time, and I found myself doing it. Well, okay, you know what? It's close enough to that time, and I was like, the Holy Spirit stopped me, and I looked at my list that I have, the purging of the subconscious, right? The list that I have, which I share in detail, by the way, on the Patreon channel in one of our Truth Analyzer Patreon podcast episodes. It happens to be about an hour long, but I share that entire list and how we develop that kind of mindset, regarding the bad habit that we're breaking. And so I looked over there on the list, and sure enough, I said, wait a minute. I used to think that it was close enough to that 5 o'clock somewhere mindset. Oh, I said, where did that come from? I was like, wait a minute. So I was doing it with the turning the light on. You see how the habitual that becomes in your thinking? If you develop that, because I said, oh my gosh, wait a minute. And no, you don't want to do that, because then I'm like, well, I'm trying to break that bad habit, thinking that way about that. But if I'm still thinking that way at close enough to the time about other things, that's going to make it more challenging to break that train of thought with the habit I'm trying to break. I said, oh my goodness. And I said, yeah, wait a minute. It sure does. When it's close enough to a certain time for this or whatever. And I said, oh no. I said, that represents laziness and impatience at the same time. Yeah, that's like a double-edged sword. It does. It represents laziness and impatience, right? Impatience for it to be the actual time to clock out. Think about that, because that's what I did when I was the office manager of that shed place. And I was like, oh my gosh, all the way back then, I must have developed that mindset prior to that with other things. But yeah, I remember there were times where it was like so dead, and there were no customers, and it was about maybe 5 or 10 minutes to closing time. And I used to say, well, you know what? It's close enough to closing time, so just go ahead and lock up. And little do I know that 5 minutes after I leave, with 5 minutes left on the clock, there was someone that was coming and that pulled into that driveway ready to make that purchase. Had already searched for the shed, already knew what they wanted. They had the cash in hand or card or whatever, and they were coming to buy that shed with 5 minutes left on my clock for the. But I was already gone. There goes my commission. Right? Not just that, but wow, there goes the company's reputation at the same time. Because that potential customer, would definitely tell somebody else who might be looking for an outdoor shed, well, don't go to that place because they're supposed to be open until X amount of time. But when I got there with at least 5-10 minutes left, they were already closed. I wouldn't go there, because that's not very dependable, is it? Right. And so, yeah. And so I was thinking about that, and I said, oh my gosh, how many times throughout our lives might we have done that if we were like in charge of or in management or something like that, and we had that it's close enough to time to go home, and little did we know that, right, 2 minutes after we leave and lock up for the day, that there comes that potential customer, there comes that potential resident, there comes that potential buyer, really. And then it's not about the money, but it's about the morale, it's about the integrity, it's about, honoring, in a way, your hours of operation. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, if you've got a sign up there that says hours of operations are, and you've got that mindset, it's close enough for time to go, and you leave, let's say even 15 minutes early, but the person and the person that you were waiting on, that got the money in hand right then and there to help pay your salary, but you leave 15 minutes early. Listen, I did it. I've done it. We won't know more, that's for sure. So the sessions that I have available are the sessions I have available. And we don't play around with that. Of course not. But I can't believe it. I was like, wow. Well, I mean, I can now, but I was just like, wow. We had that. It close enough. We had that narcissistic mindset that represents sloth and impatience. Like, we're impatient because we just want to go ahead and get out of there. Go ahead and go home and whatever, right? Get to our lives, if you will. But at the same time, we're not loving thy neighbor as thyself by providing service during the hours of operation that we actually have on the door. We're supposed to be here till, let's say, 5 o'clock. Somebody pulls up at 4:45 and we're already gone. Well, there goes not only the potential customer long term, but also word of mouth and the reputation of the company. Oh man, a lot to think about with that one, isn't it? So we have to unlearn that mindset. That is the narcissistic mindset, and I see it a lot, and I can see why, because I watched it in the pizza place that I delivered pizza in. Yeah, there were many a times where the narcissistic manager that were closing would do that within, with just 5-7 minutes left, and they would go ahead and call it the night. Yep, all the time, because they were like, well, they don't want to have to wait on another delivery driver to return long past closing time or something like that. I mean, it's just, it is the narcissistic mindset in so many ways. And I said to myself, wow, because technically they take orders all the way up until a certain amount of time. And if you're not fulfilling that, I mean, I get it. Nobody wants to work past a certain time. Well, my shift says I'm supposed to end at 2 a.m. I don't want to be here delivering pizza till 2:30. I mean, that's the narcissistic mindset right there. We got to lose it, right? It's like, oh my gosh, no wonder that mindset became part of developing that bad habit of mine, where I would think, okay, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so it goes along with that. And then also that impatience, feeling as though your physical dependence, like, hey, I gotta have that now, and I like I can't wait 7 more minutes. Come on, where's your patience, right? Oh, I have to take something else. So all part of the renewing of the mind and getting rid of that narcissistic mindset, because we have to do that. And it all ties into when I was the office manager years ago in my early 20s. Whew. And I said, wow, that's a long time to have that kind of mindset in the subconscious mind. We don't even know it there. You know what I'm saying? It's like we think it. We're like, oh, well, it's close enough to the time. But that's so habitual. And it became so normal for us to be thinking that way. Well, now we got to knock it off. Because, God's looking for integrity. God's like, where's your integrity, right? Yeah, you're going to be true to your word, right? The old saying that a man is only as good as his word. Well, there's some truth to that. So it's like, okay. And then you also have to consider others. You got to love thy neighbor as thyself. Well, think about your employer, right? When you do stuff like that, like, oh gosh, or if you're self-employed and you do things like that, how do you think that's gonna go out there getting reviews and things? I mean, it's not going to be very professional, is it? So you're like, oh wow. And not that we're concerned with appearances or how we look per se. It's just a matter of, that's the job. We need to be doing the job. We're being paid to be there for X amount of hours, and from this time to this time. We're not being paid to clock out like 10 minutes early just because we don't see any customers, and we make that assumption that everybody's gone for the day and that there's not going to be any more customers, when there very well could be 5 minutes to closing. It is what it is. And I know that there are many places, especially in the restaurant industry, because that's a large part of what I worked in when in the Matrix. And I got caught up in it too. So I will admit my fault in it, because I remember falling right in line with coworkers who, it's like, it's 15 minutes before the restaurant closes. And we're like, okay, and we're just like ready to get done, get cleaned up. We're already cleaning up and everything else. And here comes that one final customer close to the last few minutes. And boy, that would frustrate the heck out of us. Because, oh, now, darn, we just cleaned that. We just cleaned that. Now we're going to have to clean it again. And yeah, yep, that stems from that it's close enough to the time for mindset. That is a narcissistic mindset. I know some of y'all will be like, uh-oh. Yeah, there's your homework. See, I told y'all we're on this journey together as we discover more things, not just out there in the matrix and the world and things like that, but about ourselves too, as we're purging that subconscious. And we have to go, oh, hold on a minute. Yeah, we have to recognize that remember, Jesus said we got to pull that beam out of our own eyes before we can even attempt to do so. Pull the beam out of thy brother's eye, because it's like, well, yeah, you don't want, yeah, that's hypocritical if we don't do that, right? Yeah, remember how Jesus, he picked up on, oh, thou hypocrite, right? How many times he referred to the non-believers as hypocrites, because, well, that's what they are. And just like these narcissists, we learn that they are hypocrites. And a lot of times they don't even know that they are. They don't realize that they are being hypocritical. It's just like we didn't know at some time like that, when we were sometimes darkness. So we're like, oh, okay, hold on. Now we're doing some deep inner work with that subconscious mind, going, okay, what else? What else do we need to purge from that subconscious? And a lot of it is getting rid of any kind of narcissistic mindset, any kind of narcissistic thinking. And we have to become aware. See, remember, y'all, at Consulting for Heightened Awareness, that's what it's all about. It's getting that heightened awareness about, oh my goodness, we have to stop thinking that way, because that's negative. But it represents laziness, which is sloth, which is a sin, and then also impatience at the same time. It's like, ooh, yeah. So how are we going to develop the godlike patience that we need to have if we're still hanging on to that narcissistic thought? Ooh, yeah, not good. So we have to let that go. And it becomes easier when we become aware of it. And I'm going to tell you, it really did. It blew my mind for a moment when I said, oh my gosh, I was thinking that way, overturning a light on at a certain time that I had already set. Like, we set that time, we need to hold steadfast with that. That's part of you being true to you, you know? We don't want to be untrue to ourselves. So if we pick a time, we say, okay, listen, we said we're going to turn the light on at this time, but we find ourselves 13 minutes or so early thinking, oh, well, it's close. No. Can't do that. Cannot do that at all. So, a big lesson learned today with that one. And it's all, like I said, this is the journey. This is the process. This is what the renewing of the mind looks like in real time. This is why I'm getting up here and I'm sharing this with you all. This is a personal testimony. This is going to help a lot of y'all realize that there's so much more work that's got to go into this. It's not an overnight thing. Yeah, we're healed from the trauma. We're making it to the other side of the rainbow. For those of you who haven't already, okay, keep going. All right, that's what I'm talking to y'all. Okay, you're making it to the other side. Those of us who have made it to the other side of the rainbow, you get to see that there's more work to be done. I don't want y'all to think that just because you get to the other side of the rainbow, and you're like, okay, I got that balance between the spiritual and the physical. All right, we all good to go now. Be not deceived. There's a whole lot more work with purging that subconscious, the renewing of the mind that has to take place. Because we have to recognize not just the moot in our own eye, but whoa, when we are actually engaging in such a thought process that, it's not serving the kingdom. Because God is a God of integrity. God is a God of his word. Right? God is a God of truth. Right? God is a promise keeper. So if we tell ourselves, I'm going to turn the light on at this time in the morning, we're kind of making a promise to ourselves. And so we don't want to break that promise, right? Look at it that way. Okay, even though God is the only promise keeper, well, God's Spirit's on the inside of us. So, yeah. So we got to let him help us keep that promise to ourselves. Because that is what builds character. And when I say character, I mean it's your dignity, your, of course we said integrity, but your dignity. Just knowing that, hey, you're doing the right thing. You are holding steadfast. You are keeping your word to yourself. Think about it. If you're not able to keep your word to yourself, okay, like you're like, okay, you know what? I am not going to do this until X amount of time. And I understand time is just an illusion, but it's used as a structure, right? Time, the clock, I look at it as a construct. In other words, it's something that it's there as a guide. It's like, okay, you know what? Because we know that we used to do whatever at this time during the day. So we set a set time. For example, when we go live with our Truth Seeker podcast on Tuesday, God willing, right here on the YouTube channel, it's around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. When I say around, it could be a few minutes here or there, okay? And then sometimes I might go early. It just depends on the message. But for the most part, we hold true to that. We're going to hold true to that word. We got to keep our word. We got to keep that with you all, right? That's how we hold steadfast with the Lord. Staying in God's reality and God's truth. So in order to do that, we have to recognize when we may be veering from that. You see? So God can put us back in the right direction. So if we're not holding true to our word to ourselves, are we going to be able to do it the way we need to for anyone else? It can be a bit challenging, don't you think? Yeah, because we need to be able to do it for ourselves. Say, oh, okay, I'm going to wait until this time. Become disciplined so that we remain disciplined and stay true to our word for everyone else. And I understand that, okay, yeah, well, we make sure that we keep our word with everyone else. Well, how about ourselves too? Come on now. It's like we can't be double-minded. We got to stay true to our word with you all and with ourselves. Same thing. Keeping our word with everyone around us, whoever it is we're communicating with, we keep our word. And that being said, I have not forgotten about simplifying that receptor article of the Academy. I have that on the post-it note. It's just those of you who know the circumstances, life happens. We have not forgotten. We're going to get to it. Okay? We are. It's going to take me some time, though, because I'm going to have to go back over and read the entire thing myself so that I can summarize it properly for you all. In the meantime, there's plenty of other things to keep you all occupied there. And thank you again for your patience at the Academy. Oh, for those who need this, if you're just now learning about CHA Academy, the link is listed below. That's going to take you to how the trauma bond is formed. Okay. When you get there, check that out. Check that out. Because when you learn how that is formed, then you'll find out that you will not get trauma bonded to another narcissist ever again going forward. But we have other courses, and we have a membership also that gives you access to the community forum where you have a voice as well. And so for the membership, you've got the choice. When you go to all courses, click on that. Right? Go to the link below and then click on all courses. You can also access these courses from the website as well. So either way, but directly to the Academy, you'll see, and on the homepage, okay, you'll see a little box with an arrow. Even for the membership, you have monthly and then annual. You'll have to click on that arrow to see the annual. The annual membership saves you 25%. For the courses, you have the option for a one-time payment or 5 monthly installments. Same thing, you got to click on that arrow to find those, okay? So that way, whatever works for you, and you can get in there and get more of God's wisdom, basic scientific facts, tried and true techniques, and more to help you level up your trauma healing and spiritual growth as we all continue on this journey in the spiritual awakening with the transformation process by the renewing of our mind. Verse 2, remember, we're not to conform to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of the mind so that we can do that which is acceptable, the perfect will of God. Okay? Our purpose. And so, in order for us to continue, those of us who are in our purpose, those of you who are still looking, keep going. But when we're in it, we definitely, it's more, oh gosh, there's more renewing of the mind, that purging of the subconscious, to get rid of old ways of thinking. And that's a big one right there. When you think about breaking bad habits, right? You think about, other things that go along with that. Like, how did we develop it? Like, all kinds of things. Like, you got to ask yourself those questions. Like, well, okay, if we develop that, but how? Because if you know the how, right? If you know the how, then you're going to be able to break it a lot easier. So that's what happened with us when God reminded me that I had to stand corrected, because that was not my first 9-to-5 job at the last toxic workplace, but when I was selling outdoor unit and I would leave early. Yeah, the boss didn't know that, okay? Because being an office manager, I basically was on salary, and so I didn't actually have to clock in and clock out. And so, yeah, that narcissistic mindset that I had during the time, I was thinking I was getting away with it. And I don't know. Well, I mean, I did, but I didn't. Not in the spiritual, I didn't, because here we are, remembering, oh, I had that mindset then. Oh, boy. Yeah. And the how is easy to figure out because of social influence and being around others that have that mindset. Remember how God tells us not to be partakers with them, because he tells us also lest we become like them. You see? And that's how it happens over time. It can be slow and subtle. And before we know it, we're like, oh my gosh, we've got to get rid of that narcissistic mindset. We got to get rid of that narcissistic thought process, which is, clearly it's close enough to the time for whatever, which, yeah, totally dishonors our word to ourselves. And I'm like, man. And then not just ourselves, but depending on who it is we're working for, and locking up early and leaving. That doesn't no, that's not professional at all. But it represents laziness and impatience. So there you go. Yes. Hi. Yeah. As far as that, you mean the man-made disaster? Oh, I think for the most part it is. As far as for where I'm at, I don't know about anywhere else. Like I said, I talk a little bit more about that on the Patreon channel and elsewhere, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, those of you who might be catching this a little bit later on the replay, if you're jumping in around the 35 plus minute mark, I covered the majority of the renewing of the mind part there, because I realized that there was some narcissistic thought processes that led to the development of my bad habit I'm trying to break, and the same applies to all of us. So we have to pull the beam out of our own eye, and this is part of it. So I had a little stand corrected there for you all. And then having to lose that close enough, to the time for, and how that came about because of the time that I set to turn on a particular light this morning, and I found myself engaging in that thought process when it was only about 13 minutes before turning the light on, and I said, uh-oh. We have to lose that thought process. That's a narcissistic thought process. So I'm like, whoa. And so, yeah, chosen ones, even though we're not a narcissist, we have to remember that we were around a lot of them. We were around them our whole life. So their thought processes definitely rubbed off. Remember, thoughts are spiritual power. So their thoughts, when they spoke them, got into our subconscious. And so over time, right, and that repetition, and then we were hanging around them. And so we did pick up on some of their behavioral patterns, but not all of them, thank God. Okay, but we did, and this is why we have to go through that inner work and the self-reflection, and got to do all that. Okay, got to do that. And it really is a process in and of itself. And so, yeah, now we can dive a little bit more into the and more here. Speaking of and more, I did the, I did stand corrected. And so now I want to make the announcement for those who, I didn't realize this, but my biological dad, basically, well, I guess you could say kind of gave me a little push to go ahead and create a Venmo. Apparently, Venmo is now, it has been around for a little while, but it's another, it is part of, it's an entity within PayPal, but it's something about, it's got the social aspect to it. I've got my Venmo now, it's on private. So Venmo is another for those who have that, or I'm not sure if, I don't know if it works the same way as PayPal. Like when you pledge a service grant to PayPal, we know that you can do so as a guest and that you don't have to have a PayPal. With Venmo, I don't know all of that yet. I'm still learning it, but link below in the description where I said, CHA accepts service grant. So if you would like to pledge a service grant and you don't want to use PayPal and you have Venmo, you prefer that route, well, the Venmo link is down below also. Okay, that is at venmo.com/u/CHABTBW. So that, as far as I know, that's how it goes. I had to find that link because well, I know it says whenever I pull my thing up, my profile up on the app, it says Michelle Dickey at CHABTBW. But I said, okay, yeah, but there's got to be an actual shareable link for people to go when they want to pledge a service grant and they prefer Venmo. So I'm learning all the different options, but really PayPal is very simple. And I think Venmo is too. I don't know, but now there's another option for those who prefer that route. Because a lot of people apparently have Venmo. So I'm like, okay then. So we're doing that. So you have another option. And then don't forget about the grants right on the website. Okay, you will find CHA Accept Grant in the navigation menu on the website. That link is also listed below. And so if you don't see the amount that you would like to pledge, that's where the PayPal and the Venmo come in handy. So there you go. But yeah, we'll talk about the disaster stuff. Yeah, it's, for some of us, it's over. I would imagine for a lot of those who are in perhaps the direct path, not so much, but prayers for them, absolutely. But I'm also not falling for the overblowing and over exaggerating headlines either. I'm not falling for those. So I encourage y'all not to either. But it was something else. I have to tell you. I woke up this morning and my car alarm keychain was chirping at me. I said, go figure. So, and right, you heard some people complaining that the hurricane wasn't as bad as the news made it out. Well, they will actually complain. See, that tells you right there that those are narcissists. If they are complaining that the hurricane was not as bad as the news media was making it out to be, well, it never is. That's the point, is that these storms and stuff are never as bad. Now, I'm not saying they don't do some destruction. Of course they do some destruction here and there, but as far as the all-out catastrophic, right? And I've been hearing sirens all day today. Yeah, not surprising. Not surprising. But anyhow, since I've been up this morning, a couple hours at least, after getting up this morning is when I started hearing them, and on and off throughout the day. I mean, go figure. But if you're hearing people complain, well, then that's a narcissist. Complaining that the storm wasn't as bad. I got your comment and I copied it. Yes, thank you. There is a small tree out here that well, let's just say I've already said my prayers. It's not, it did come up a little. I haven't seen anything else. I haven't been out yet. I have seen, some fallen debris and leaves and stuff like that, but that's to be expected. Even in a regular rainstorm, thunderstorm, you're going to have some of that anyhow. So I would imagine there might be some trees down out there elsewhere. I don't know. I'm not going to bear false witness. But yeah, I'm not surprised that you have people complaining that the hurricane wasn't as bad as the news media was making it out to be. Well, you know what? I have to say for those complainers is, well, maybe you ought to rethink some things from now on going forward. Because those things never are as bad as the news media makes them out to be. They can't be. Because you can only use so much radio frequency. You can only do so much. God is still in full control. He told me, he said, yeah, he said, that little storm, he said, it was gone long before they even started projecting the path for something that they made up. We'll leave that there. More about that on the Patreon channel. But I would tell y'all, it's really amazing. But yeah, to those who want to complain, and you know what that shows us too? They're complaining that it wasn't as bad as the news made it out to be. It's because they were hoping, they were wanting to feed on more pain and suffering. They were wanting to feed off of that destruction. They were wanting to, that's evil, right? And I'm not sure, but I can try and pronounce it. Thank you, Chris, for sharing it. I did copy it in my note, and I'm thinking it would be Schadenfreude that you're talking about there. I got it. It says that's those who take, well, that describes them. If they're complaining about it not being as bad as they want it to be. Okay, so listen, anytime you all share a German or a Spanish word with me, I'm going to copy it down. I'm trying to learn Spanish, but I can learn German too. In fact, I had some German notes at one time. Okay, thank you. Okay, okay, so Schadenfreude. Okay, yeah, the delight in the suffering of others. It's so narcissist right there. That's what they do. They take pleasure in learning about or knowing that a bad thing has happened to somebody else. I know, see, that's why chosen ones, we don't have that spiritual wickedness in high places, so we can't even imagine. I was like, I would never, ever, ever. In fact, you know, if I see destruction done to someone else's property, the first thing I do is stop and pray. That's what we should be doing. Stop and pray for them. Whether or not they're an enemy or a fellow chosen one, it don't matter. We stop and pray. And that's that. Because chosen ones, we don't have that. So glory be to God, though. Yeah, I don't know. She may know it. Yeah. And we'll let her speak for herself as far as that goes. All right. So that's what we want to also remember to do here in our growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ. I had to learn this lesson myself also when I was doing a book promotion. And I thanked the person. I said, oh, thank you for that lesson, right? Because we have to kind of like, yeah. So if we're mentioning someone, we don't want to go presuming things. We want to let them speak for themselves. So you can ask the question and then let them answer it when they catch it on the replay. You know what I'm saying? So let's not make any assumptions, if you will, and things like that. But yeah, should, maybe, we'll see. Like I said, we let one another speak for themselves. It's just a mature thing to do. I know I had to do it too. Y'all are not alone. I had to learn the same thing. Because I did. I asked one of my book promoters if another book promoter would like a shout out. And they said, well, I can't speak for them. I said, oh, that's true. My bad. I said, thank you for like enlightening me and opening my eyes. Like, hold on a second. I can just email the other person and ask them myself. So I had to learn that lesson too. All right, there you go. We'll wait and see. Because we're all learning from one another. We're all learning from one another. But that really is the awesome German description for narcissists. It really is, because that's exactly what they do. And I'm like, wow, it doesn't surprise us though, does it? Because the more we see how they have that look of glee on their faces when others are in pain and suffering, it's just not something that we ever want to see on a regular basis, or ever again if we can help it. Seriously, when I saw that look, that childish look of glee on the one Jezebel's face while the other Jezebel was on her deathbed, and just the glee that was on her, it was so surreal. I said, that's so sick. That, and then when the medic came in, during her final hours and stuff, and they were helping her go to the bathroom and all of that, and they were tossing her to and fro like she was just like a rag doll. And he was standing there with the micro expression of excitement and glee on his face. And I said to myself, Heavenly Father, I said, that is beyond normal. It's way out there. But he sure did. He had that micro expression of excitement and glee on his face, watching them handle her like a rag doll. That's evil. That's pure evil. And when you see something like that, you don't unsee it. It's like, yeah, as I was describing it, I'm seeing that moment play out again. And I was like, okay, wow. Yeah, Chosen One, that's the kind of stuff that we no longer miss when we get into God's reality. Because that right there just shows how they feed on other people's pain and suffering. They get off on it. It's like, yeah, it really is. It's sick and it's twisted, but that's what they do. That's what the narcissists do. That's how they are to see others in pain and suffering. And because they view everybody as objects, right? These narcissists view people as objects. They don't have the ability to view any of us as an actual human being. They can't do it. They are demonically possessed. They don't have the ability to even see us as a genuine human being, because they themselves are not one. They are just a perfectly programmed robot for the Matrix to dish out the traumatization and to continue obeying, consuming, and keeping the Matrix going. That's it. So, yeah, it really is something, but I'm not surprised. So thank you for sharing that with me, Chris, that you heard some people complaining that the storm was not as bad as the news made it out to be. I'm not surprised. It never is. That's the thing. It never is. Nothing is ever as bad as the news media makes it out to be. That's why we learn to stop bearing false witness. Go take a look for ourselves. All right? Yeah, go take a look for ourselves if we need to. But we also know when we were down in the rabbit hole that we learned about, well, see, this is all part of that renewing of the mind, because we are unlearning a lot of the things that we used to believe were actually real. It's all part of it. We might be in the and more part of this particular video, but it's renewing of the mind, because we are purging that subconscious of things that we now know are just illusion, and that how things are made to appear larger than they truly are, and also how the news media and the Matrix always wants to overblow, over exaggerate, making mountains out of molehills over everything. And so we have to see past that and go, oh, is that right? Okay, wait a minute. Not at all. So I want y'all to keep that in mind. So real quick, as we wrap this one up, I know that many of you are going to catch the first half of this on the replay, because there's a lot of good stuff. I share personal testimony to help y'all put it in perspective. And I'm going to tell it straight. You know how Jesus was a straight talker? Well, so are we. I tell it like it is, sharing that testimony. We're on a journey together. The renewing of the mind does not happen overnight. Right? So it is something, and we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to be willing to accept the fact that, oh, Yeah, that's a narcissistic thought. We got to get rid of that. And it doesn't matter how trivial it may be, it's something that we got to work on within ourselves. Remember, God is doing what God knows how to do. Okay, we don't know how to do anything without Him. So, like, let God do what God knows how to do, as He is helping us purge the subconscious, unlearn old ways of thinking, old belief systems, and then also, yeah, breaking bad habits and purging that subconscious mind in order to do so, because that is a big part of pleasing God. And the more we please God, the more He'll bless us, right? You go. Because He wants to bless us. But we do have to do our part. It's not that He's giving us an ultimatum or anything, but there are things that He is looking for. And this is one of them. Are we going to recognize, oh, we still have a little more work to do with the narcissistic thought process or narcissistic mindset? We have to, get rid of that one. Yikes. So we work on that until we are no longer thinking of anything. When we set a time to something, then that's got to be what it's going to be. We could not be thinking, oh, it's close enough to, and then, so that can take a little while, but we have to unlearn that. And so there you go. But again, real quick, everybody, for those of you who have not done so, I highly encourage you to do this when you have a moment, to check out the website. Okay, the forensic consultation. Yeah, that's in the navigation drop down menu. It says forensic consultation. When you click on that, you will see those 1 day, 1 week, and 1 month consultations available. Okay, forensics. All right, yeah, we do have that because that is our background. And right, it's not just with God's wisdom, y'all. I do have the earthly credentials. All right, with our forensic background to help piece together the puzzle, fill in the blank, connect dots. The smallest detail tell the biggest story. Patterns tell a story. Yep, you're going to hear me say that on and off, here and there, because it's part of this ministry, and it's true, part of God's spiritual truth. And we keep on keeping on. And so, yes, you can always check those out. Check the academy out. There's always something for everyone. We have more coming. And then, of course, when you subscribe to this, you will not be sorry. We have stuff coming for you all, even in the future, more live streams, more pre-record. Plus, there's plenty on here already for wherever you are at in the spiritual awakening and God's reality. Check out the playlist. There's something for everyone. If you're still breaking trauma bonds, we got one for you. That's a playlist right there. If you are looking to figure out how to know when you're fully healed from the trauma, how to know when you're fully healed, got a playlist for you. So check those out. All right. And thank you to all who have caught all of our shorts. Yeah, we got a short playlist, okay, where we got all the YouTube shorts. So thank you for giving all of those a quick like and even a comment. All right. Let's help those things get to our fellow spiritual warriors for Christ so they can join us in our growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ here at Consulting for Heightened Awareness, CHA. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Till next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.